It's 8 o'clock p.m. here in Seoul, and it's June 3rd, 2025, Election Day in South Korea. The polls are just closing at this hour, or are scheduled to do so as South Koreans elect a new president. I'm Devin Whiting, copy editor at the KoreaHerald, and joining us here tonight for our election coverage is Choi He-suk, who is desk editor for the Herald's digital content. He-suk, good to have you back on.
Glad to be back.
And joining us with all the details is reporter Jung Min-kyung from the national desk. Min-kyung, glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, welcome to all of our viewers around the world. We know we've got people just tuning in for the first time, as well as some of our subscribers. So, He-suk, could you just fill us in for everyone out there? How can they find us online?
You can find us at the KoreaHerald.com, or you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube. So please follow, subscribe, etc. Yeah, thank you.
Indeed, it's a great time to start following us if you aren't already doing so. Well, at this hour, we are seeing the polls close, and we are expecting to get exit polls from those voters who went out to vote today, which should give us our first big clue as to the outcome of today's presidential election. We're going to have to wait a few minutes for those to come out, and Min-kyung is keeping an eye on that for us right now. But first of all, Min-kyung, you've been following Korean politics in this very turbulent time, several months now of the turbulence going on. What's been your takeaway? What's been your experience in the newsroom?
Well, Devin, it's been quite a journey for me for the past 6 months or so as a political reporter at the KoreaHerald, especially after the martial law debacle on December 3rd. Well, I've been mostly covering the ruling Conservative People Power Party, which has been actually the impeached President Yoon's party until last month.
Right. The People Power Party, their candidate Kim Moon-soo is facing the Democratic Party of Korea's Lee Jae-myung as the two main candidates, and then it's a three-way race, truly. So it's we've also got Lee Jun-suk of the conservative New Reform Party. We'll get into all that in just a minute. But as we wait for the exit polls, we can look at some data that we do have. An important barometer of how elections turn out in some cases in Korea is voter turnout. And we have seen very strong voter turnout this year, especially, well, not only today, but also in the early voting. We had 2 days of early voting last week, and I understand that was quite a strong turnout there.
Yes, I agree with you, Devin. There was a very strong turnout. I think the turnout came to
34.74%. So more than a third of eligible voters showed up to vote in early voting.
Yes. So that was a pretty high number. I think it really reflected voter interest in this election. And I think there's going to be a higher turnout for today as well. Yeah.
Right. We were at 7 o'clock, I saw we were well over 70% turnout.
Yes, so as of 7 p.m., the voter turnout stood at 77.8%, and we're expected to get higher numbers right now, actually. The poll has closed at 8 p.m.,
So we should get an update on those figures soon. People are talking about crossing over 80%. We'll see if that happens, but we're closing in on a record there. I do notice, He-suk, that in early voting as well as today's turnout, we have seen higher numbers in some regions compared to others. In early voting turnout right here, we see in the Jeolla provinces, those are in Korea's southwest, we had the highest turnout, 53% in North Jeolla province and 56.5% in South Jeolla province. More than half of people voted early. Tell us a bit about that dynamic geographically.
So the Jeolla provinces, which is in the southwest, the regions, it's long been a liberal stronghold, and they've shown relatively higher voter turnout than other regions by comparison. Mm-hmm. And almost always, well, at least in the past 20, 30 years, they've shown overwhelming support for the liberal candidates. So on the opposite side of the country, in the southeast, the Gyeongsang provinces, that region is the conservative stronghold. So they also displayed quite high turnout, but they haven't always given their full support to the Conservative candidate.
Right, I'm looking at the early turnout for Gyeongsang, for the North Gyeongsang province at 31.5%, South Gyeongsang province just 31.7%, much lower than in the southwest of the country.
Right, but well, let's go. I mean, just going by last year. Last election results. Back then, the southwest, the Jeolla provinces, they recorded around 81, 82% turnout, which wasn't much higher than the Gyeongsang provinces, where it came to around 76, 78%. So in the end, I mean, it's not that much of a difference.
Right.
But one difference is that Gyeongsang province, the major cities, they've actually, despite it being the Conservative stronghold, they have in the past given their support to the Liberal candidate. For instance, with the Moon Jae-in election in 2017, back then, Busan and Ulsan, which still are Conservatives' main supporter base, they picked Moon Jae-in instead of their. Okay, I'm not sure if I can say there, but like the Conservative candidate Hong Jun-pyo.
Right. Yeah, Hong Jun-pyo was, he obviously did not win that election, and people talked about him running in this election too, but he ended up not doing so.
Right. I mean, he has always been a Conservative heavyweight, but after losing the last presidential election, he went and became the governor of North Gyeongsang province. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right, mayor of Daegu, and he quit that position this year to run in the hopes to win the Conservative Party's candidacy, but that didn't happen, and then he's since retired from politics.
Right, well, again, for everyone tuning in, we are expecting exit polls any minute now in South Korea's presidential election. It's a historic election, and it's coming early, just 3 years after the last one. Our President Yoon Suk-yeol was impeached and removed from office, impeached in December, removed from office in April this year, and so within 60 days, we were required to hold a presidential election, and that, of course, was today. So as we wait for the exit polls, our first major clue, we can look at another aspect of this leading up to Election Day, which were opinion polls. According to the opinion polls, the last one of which was taken late last week, we had a strong lead in public opinion for Lee Jae-myung, the Liberal candidate with the Democratic Party of Korea. He had about 49% support compared to Kim Moon-soo, the Conservative candidate, People Power Party, who was at only around 37%. So that would seem to indicate, quite a big lead.
Right, so several pre-election surveys showed that Lee Jae-myung was the front runner with around 50% support, and Kim was around 10 percentage point behind him, maybe a little bit more. But the surveys don't always directly translate into results. I personally think that this would be a pretty tight race until the end. But definitely, I think there would be a wider margin compared to the previous election, where the margin between Yoon Suk-yeol and his rival Lee Jae-myung came to less than a percentage point.
Right. A very close election last time in the end, and it turns out that these exit polls, which we're hoping to get soon, turned out to be very accurate.
Oh yeah, the last time the exit polls were spot on. So the exit polls predicted that Yoon Suk-yeol, the ousted president, would get 48.4% compared to Lee Jae-myung's 47.8%. So 0.6 percentage point difference there. But after the actual count, it came down to 48.56 for Yoon and 47.83 for Lee Jae-myung.
Yeah, so we're waiting for those figures for this race, and as soon as we can announce them, we will. Now, do we have the latest turnout number yet? Because at 7 o'clock we mentioned that it was quite high in the upper 70s, and at 8 o'clock we see that we're at 77.8% turnout?
I think they're in the process of counting the total ballots. So,
Okay.
Yeah, so it's gonna take a bit more for the total
Okay.
numbers to come out.
Yeah, I can see the number's still rising. We're
Yeah.
almost at 78%. Now, it's 8:10 now.
Right. So we can we can announce the exit poll results. Is that right?
Yes. So the exit polls have just come out right now, and Lee Jae-myung came at Lee Jae-myung came in first place with 51.7%. He was followed by Kim Moon-soo with 39.3%, and actually the conservative New Reform Party candidate Lee Seung-hyun came at 7.7%.
Wow.
That's
Okay, one more time, everybody. That's Lee Jae-myung is, according to the exit polls, they've got a 95% confidence rate on this. As of 8 o'clock, Lee Jae-myung is given 51.7%. That is a large lead ahead of Kim Moon-soo, the conservative candidate of the People Power Party. He's at 39.3%. That's not, I should say Lee Jun-suk is at 7.7%. So if we look at those opinion polls again, that's not too far off where they were polling just last week.
No, it's actually pretty close, I think. So yeah, we don't know if it's going to be a tight race until the end, but Lee is definitely getting the lead here.
Right, he was polling at 49% before the election. Now here on election day, exit polls show over 51%, almost 52%. Kim Moon-soo was polling at 36.8 last week. Now he's at 39. So it looks like the share of both Lee Jae-myung and Kim Moon-soo have both increased, and Lee Jun-suk's share has decreased compared to the polls before. So perhaps that means some voters in the end decided to
go for the other conservative, more viable conservative candidate. But
Right.
I mean, at least if the exit polls are as accurate as the last time, tonight it might not be as long as I expected it to be. So we could
Right.
get home at some reasonable time.
That's right. I mean, it's been a long day for a lot of people in many newsrooms in South Korea, including you, I know, Min-gyo. So maybe that is what we're going to see. If those polls turn out to be accurate, it wouldn't be a close race. Of course, that's an if. But speaking of that, Min-gyo, when are we going to get the actual final results? Not just the exit polls, but when are we going to know officially who's going to be president?
Right, so the polls today opened at 6 a.m. and it has already closed at 8 p.m., which is actually 2 hours later than the previous presidential elections. It's because this is a snap or a supplementary election, and South Korea's law stipulates that polls are open until 8 p.m. instead of the usual 6 p.m. under such circumstances. So the vote counting is expected to start around maybe 9 p.m., and the results are expected to take shape after midnight. So in the previous election, the results came out after 3 a.m. the next day. I mean, it started to take shape. So it will be fully materialized and announced by 6 a.m. tomorrow.
That's the official announcement we expect at 6 a.m. But as you said, He-suk, last time it was a close race, so this sort of the newscasts were going on and on till late in the night. But they, as in many countries, the media will actually call the election.
Yeah.
Right?
So the last time, I don't think anyone called the race until 3 a.m. But the presidential election before that in 2017, some broadcasters are calling it as early as 11 p.m. So hopefully tonight won't be long. That's again.
Right. Fair enough. And also, of course, when the results are official at early tomorrow morning, it's a very unusual thing. But whoever is declared president will be inaugurated the very same day. There's no transition period at all, right?
Yes, there will be no transition period, and he will be immediately named president and take office.
Wow, that's pretty extraordinary. Well, we don't know, of course, who's going to be president, but we can talk a little bit about, very broadly, the policies on each side. Obviously, the liberal candidate, as he's called, Lee Jae-myung, Democratic Party, and conservative candidate Kim Moon-soo of the People Power Party. One thing that I've noticed is that pretty much all the candidates are talking about reforming the constitution so that, as currently we have South Korean presidents only get to serve one term for 5 years, but there's a broad agreement, it seems, that they want to do it so that they can serve multiple terms. 2 terms is pretty much the consensus, right?
Yeah, well, that's the idea that came out from all 3 main candidates. But the idea of reforming the constitution and reducing the power held by the president it's been floating around for decades,
Right.
and it has never really materialized. So I don't know. I mean, we'll have to wait and see if they do follow up on this important issue.
Yeah, I noticed that in Lee Jae-myung's case, the law is that if a certain administration makes this reform, then it doesn't apply to that administration, right? So, for example, if Lee Jae-myung were to be president and then they make this change, he wouldn't get to do another one. But he's talked about, maybe there could be exceptions. So, as you say, anyway, will they even do it? It's hard to say.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, with politicians, I mean, the pledges, they don't always, I mean, some of them are just unrealistic, and some of them are, they run into real world problems, it sounds like I'm making excuses for politicians, but I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see.
Right. Well, is there anything you'd like to add, Min-young, in terms of policies, or should we take some questions from our viewers?
Well, the thing I want to talk about policies is that a lot of the policies for this election was focused on the economy. And what really grabbed my interest was the one that Lee Jae-myung is thinking of making Busan a transportation hub for the Arctic route. And, I think in a way those economic policies were able to grab the attention of moderate voters, which is why, as it is reflected in the exit polls, Lee is apparently named number 1 here. So, yes.
But we do have a question from one of our viewers, well, a couple of our viewers. They asked the same question: who would be better for foreigners living in Korea? Is there a clear answer for that?
I don't think there will ever be a clear answer for that. Because, well, for foreigners, I don't think the policies highlighted by both Lee Jae-myung and Kim Moon-soo, their policy goals, they didn't really align with the foreign citizens living here. So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely something to point out that presidential candidates in the future should include, make the foreign citizens living here feel included as voters. Yes.
Sure, and a practical reality is that foreign citizens can't vote in presidential elections, so they aren't really a constituency of these candidates. But one group that is a constituent of these candidates are the business owners who employ foreign workers. So that is one way that their policies could influence foreign residents of Korea. Were there any other comments that we can look at?
Let me just go through the comments again. Sad to say that was the only
That was a question. Yeah. Okay.
Although there was a couple of demands that we should bring back Seung-hyun from the previous live.
Okay. Burn. That's okay. You guys get me until this session ends.
Oh, okay. We've got another one.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a good one. This is
Does
a great
any
question.
candidate have any ideas to encourage people to have babies?
Okay, and this is in reference to the fact that, for those of you who don't know, South Korea has pretty much the lowest birth rate of any developed country in the world. We were below 0.7 babies per lifetime per woman just recently. It's come up a little bit, but
Yes.
any policies that we can talk about for sure? The government has already been trying a lot of things.
Yes, so what we can take from the policies outlined by these candidates is that a lot of these policies actually seem focused on providing low interest loans for newlyweds, which I think could be improved. I think we do need a very systematic improvement to improve the birth rate here.
So you're talking about low interest loans to buy a home or other ones too?
Both homes and other ones, yes.
Yeah, and also they get some supplementary payments for various things, childbirth, and also another big policy has been parental leave.
Yes.
Right. So we'll have to see, but that is definitely a major consideration for all parties. Pretty much everyone wants to see the birth rate come back up.
Okay, we do have a couple more questions. One of them is, which actually does interest me quite a bit personally, which one would be better for wage increases?
Wage increases. Well, what do you say?
For wage increases,
The last Liberal administration under Moon Jae-in, they raised the minimum wage.
Yep. Quite a bit, but then that backfired on the administration in a big way. So I don't know if I mean, the whoever makes it into the presidential office, he may be cautious because of the previous Moon Jae-in administration's actions.
Right. There was some backlash
Right.
from among those who were running businesses. Yeah. And we see, have there been any cryptocurrency policies introduced or talked about by any candidate? Cryptocurrency, well, we did see that the government is talking about, they've delayed the taxation of cryptocurrencies more than once, I believe.
Right.
Capital gains tax on cryptocurrencies.
yes.
And I believe they are pushing back, if not the government, I think it might have been one of the candidates just today announced that they would push that back to 2027, taxation on cryptocurrency gains, off the top of my head. But of course, one theme of this is that candidates promise a lot of things, and I seem to notice, for example, driving to work, I see a poster for the Lee Jae-myung campaign, and it says we're going to improve the parks and sidewalks in Seoul, and then 2 streets down I see another one, we're going to make Korea an AI superpower. So it's just, there's a lot of things been promised.
Right, so they do promises, pledges, but how many actually are realized? Maybe we should do a count of those. How many pledges are actually put into practice by any administration?
I bet somebody's tracking that.
Right.
Well, so we got the exit polls tonight at 8 o'clock. We announced them to you a little while ago. So let's look at that one more time before we close out this program. Lee Jae-myung, as of just a few minutes ago, 8 o'clock, had exit polls showed him with 51.7% support. In a fairly distant second was of the People Power Party, Kim Moon-soo with 39.3%, and in third place, Lee Jun-seok of the Conservative New Reform Party at 7.7%. So we're going to be back at 11 o'clock, right?
Yep, 11. Right.
11 o'clock, and we'll be updating those figures. And if we've started to get any official results as well, we'll update those as well. And so, He-suk, thank you for your analysis and being here tonight. And Min-kyung, great to have you in the studio with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for everyone who's tuning in, we hope you'll join us again at 11 as we go deeper into hopefully some official results from this election, which the first indications seem to show a fairly, possibly a clear outcome.
Right.
We might not be here all night.
But regardless of the who wins, I mean, I do hope to go home sometime tonight.
All right, that's a good place to leave it. Everyone, thank you for tuning in, and if you're not doing so already, please like and subscribe, and we'll leave it there. Bye for now.